Hey guys, I'm Aryan Agarwala. I'm 6 stars in CodeChef and Master on Code Forces. Welcome to our channel, Learn Competitive Programming with CodeChef. Every week we upload tons of competitive programming tutorials, so here's a reminder to subscribe and click on the bell icon to stay notified. Today, we're going to discuss a problem named Maximum Score, which appeared in the March 2021 Starters contest. So, this is an easy problem and it requires knowledge of dynamic programming and is heavily based off a very common dynamic programming problem named the 01 knapsack problem. Okay, so this is an extremely common problem, so I recommend that you look it up and familiarize with yourself with the solution for that problem. And if you're good with that, then it's pretty easy to understand this one. So let's look at the problem statement. Chef's college is conducting online exams. Chef has a test tomorrow and he, being irresponsible, failed to prepare for it on time. However, fortunately, he now realizes the gravity of the situation and decides to prepare as much as possible in the time remaining and try to score maximum marks possible using his analytical skills. There are n chapters and only k minutes are left before the exam. Chapter I will be worth mi marks in the exam and shall take ti marks to study. Chef can study the chapters in any order but needs to study them completely and at most once. He knows that he will forget the first chapter he will prepare due to lack of sleep and won't be able to score any marks in it. Find the maximum marks that Chef can score in the exam. Note that he cannot restudy later the chapter that he has forgotten. The constraints are multi-test case format, so t is less than equal to 10, n is less than equal to 10 to the power 3, k is less than equal to 10 to the power 4, k is the total amount of time remaining, and each mi and ti, which are the marks available for a certain chapter and the amount of time taken to study a certain chapter. So mi is less than equal to 10 to the power 9 and ti is less than equal to k, which is 10 to the power 4. And additionally given that the sum of n multiplied by k over all tests is at most 10 to the power 7. Okay? So this alone gives us a big hint that n into k is a big part of the solution. Okay? So let's look at a test case once. So I think the last test case will serve us well. Okay? So let's just write that down. Right. So the test case is n is equal to 5 and k is equal to 6. Okay? The chapters are, so chapter 1 will take 1 unit of time. Time is equal to 1 and marks are equal to 5. Okay? For chapter 2, time is equal to 2, marks are equal to 4. For chapter 3, we have time is equal to 3, marks are equal to 3. Chapter 4, we have time is equal to 4, marks are equal to 2. And lastly, chapter 5, we have time is equal to 5 and marks are equal to 1. Now, for a moment, if we completely forget about what the statement said about the fact that he will forget the first chapter he studies, this part, okay, then this problem is actually identical to the 01 knapsack problem. Okay, with so the 01 knapsack problem talks about a knapsack which can fit a limited amount of weight. Okay, and each item has a certain value and weight associated with it. So we want to find out what's the maximum total value of items we can fit. Now this is identical where the weight corresponds to the amount of time a chapter takes and the value of a chapter is quantified by the amount of marks it can bring you. Okay, so let's solve it using the 01 knapsack method, completely forgetting about the fact that our first chapter will not count for anything. So if we solve it using that method, then we will find that uh, we have 6 seconds. So the ideal combination is chapters 1, 2, 3. Okay, in total they take 1 plus 2 plus 3 equals 6 seconds. Okay, and the marks they bring us are 5 plus 4 plus 3, which is 12. Okay, now this works well for the knapsack. However, we can't actually forget about the fact that there is one chapter that won't count. Okay, so to account for that, I propose a slightly different solution. Okay, So the solution for knapsack, as I hope you guys know, based on what you've read, is dp n cross k, where dpij represents the optimal way to select items from I to n with j minutes remaining. Okay, and note that this is n cross k, so this is equal to this will take order of 10 to the power 7. Okay, now in all of this, note that no matter what set of chapters we select, we can always select any one chapter from those that we can study first and make that chapter not count, right? So to this dp, all we have to do is add another dimension. So I say I propose this solution, okay? dpij2. Now dpij1 represents the best solution if we select items from 1 to n with j minutes remaining. Okay, okay. Such that all chapters give marks. Okay, meaning that not a single one of these chapters is forgotten. Okay. The other, which is dpij2, represents the best solution from 1 to n with j minutes remaining, such that all chapters other than 1 give marks. Okay, so in this dp, so basically this dp represents the state such that we have selected a chapter which will not give us marks. Okay, meaning we will study that chapter first so that that chapter does not give us any marks. This represents this, like if we study the set of chapters such that all of them will give us marks, then what's the best answer we can get? And now we will formulate a clever recurrence which works with both of these. Okay, so the recurrence will be first. Okay, so there are three things that we can do. Okay, so let's calculate dp ij1 first. Okay, and this is just follows directly from knapsack. Okay, so this will be max dp I plus 1 j1. Okay, then dp I plus 1 j minus time taken by I. Okay, so this is the case where we basically study this chapter. Okay, 1 plus marks given by I. Okay, and dpij2, this is the interesting one that we don't have in knapsack, right? So this will be maximum of dp I plus 1 j2 dp I plus 1. Now this case is when we decide that we'll select the ith chapter to study first. Okay, so this ith chapter will take time but it will not give us marks. So we'll do dp I plus 1 j minus ti, and then note that if we select the ith chapter to study first, then from I plus 1 to n, none of those chapters can be studied first, right? So instead of 2 being here, 1 will be here, right? And to this, we won't add marks given by I because we're studying I first, right? So we won't get any marks from it, right? So that's it. And the last one is when we select the ith chapter, but we say that we'll study it at any position other than the first position. So it'll take time and it'll give us marks. Okay. So that means that one of the chapters between I plus 1 and n has to have been selected to be the first one. Okay, so this will be the case dpi plus 1 j minus ti because it still takes time, and then 2 because one of them will have to be studied first, and then to this we will add marks of I. So this is our DP recurrence. Now, ideally we would want to visualize this, but since it's 3D DP, making a table or something will honestly complicate it more than it'll help. So instead, let's look at the implementation. So I start by inputting the number of test cases, and I iterate over the test cases. Then I input n and k, which is the number of chapters and the amount of time we have to study the chapters. Then I have an array empty of pair of integers. Okay, empty dot first basically stores m, which is the number of marks which this chapter will give us, and empty dot second is time, which is basically the number of minutes taken to study this chapter. Okay, then I create this array of dp. Well, I create the dp array. Okay, there's nothing to write here. Okay, exactly how I described it earlier. The only difference is I use zero based indexing. Okay, so what earlier corresponded to dp ijk now is dp I minus 1 j k minus 1. Okay, so first I set all of the dp I 0 k. Okay, because if we simply have 0 time remaining, then there's nothing we can study. So for this one it will be 0. Okay, in the case where we consider regular knapsack. But in the case where we're considering the special version of knapsack, the reason I've set it to minus 10 to the power 14 is because if I set it to 0 here, okay, then the issue is that in our DP, we will think that we've already selected a first chapter, and then we'll keep on, for every chapter we'll select, we'll keep on taking the marks for it, okay? However, since this we actually cannot select anything, so the set of selected chapters will be empty, there cannot really be a first chapter, right? So therefore, I've made it minus infinity, okay? Which is basically minus 10 to the power 14 in this case. Now over here, I basically set all of the DP n k j, okay, or njk, whatever you want to call it, okay. Basically, at n there isn't an actual element stored, okay. So this is just kind of a dummy element I've made to make our transition easier, okay. So dp ni0 is equal to 0 and dp ni1 is equal to minus 10 to the power 14, exactly as the previous case, okay. Now we have our main dp loop, okay. We're calculating dpi x0 and dpi x1, okay. Now it's important that we calculate x from lowest to highest, okay. The reason being that we're using lower x's in our transition, okay. So it's important that the lower x's be available, okay. Now again, it's important that we calculate I from higher to lower inside this x hierarchy, okay. The reason being that we're using higher i's in our calculation, right, over here. So we need these i's available, okay. Then inside, first we set dpix0 and dpix1 as simply dpi plus 1 x0 and dpi plus x1, okay, as was explained in the recurrence. Then if the time taken by this chapter is greater than the amount of time we have, then we simply continue, because that means we can't actually add this chapter to our study time, okay. Else, in the first case we take the max of what we already have, and the case where we choose to study this chapter, so I plus 1 x minus the time taken for this chapter 0 plus the marks given by this chapter, and in the second case we take max of what we already have. Then the case where we study this chapter first, so it takes the time but it doesn't give us marks, so I plus 1 x minus time taken 0, that's it. And finally the third case is we study this chapter but we don't study it first, so it takes the time but gives us the marks as well. So that's dp I plus 1 x minus time taken, and this time it's 1 not 0, okay, simply because it means that we have to, from the list from I plus 1 to n, we have to select a chapter we want to study first, okay. So it's dp I plus 1 x minus time taken 1 plus the marks given by this chapter, and then we simply output So it's important to note that because of these things, the answer might actually become minus infinity, okay, in our DP. So just to shave off those rough edges, we just make the answer 0 in that case. So we take max of DP 0k1 and 0. And that's our final answer. So let's just submit this once. And yeah, we have our AC.